What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading. Today, we're going to look at a potential black swan that could tank the crypto markets over the next few days and how low crypto could go as a result. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of the crypto market. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better traders and the better investors we're all going to become. So as some of you guys might have heard here, the reason why crypto had a little bit of a pullback later yesterday was because there are reports coming out that Israel is considering attacking Iran. If you're someone who's been paying attention to kind of like the geopolitical side of it, this is something that's been known for a while. Israel really wants to attack Iran. Specifically, they want to destroy their nuclear facilities. Not going to get into any of the politics here, just saying kind of like what's going on. So they want to strike Iran. They want to get rid of these nuclear facilities because they view them as a threat. And of course, they want the U.S. to help them with that. And of course, Donald Trump has been very hesitant to do that because, of course, part of the reason why he was elected was to not get into these types of wars and conflicts, right? But it looks like Israel is considering striking Iran regardless. This was reported late last night, and people are all speculating now, like, is this really going to happen? When could it happen? There's reports that the U.S. is starting to pull basically diplomats out of like Bahrain and Kuwait and Iraq, basically anticipating that things could get pretty ugly potentially. And of course, that begs the question of when it could happen. I've seen some pretty interesting analysis here, of course, from these OSINT guys, basically open source intelligence people that are kind of like sharing their thoughts on social media. They're all kind of saying like, there's at least 1 or 2 days before there's any kind of military action. I think the best take that I've seen so far is that it could probably happen sometime over the weekend, specifically after Trump's parade here on June 14th. And who knows, maybe there could be some, potential Iranian stuff going on around that parade. I'm not going to speculate too much there. But basically, Trump has this huge army parade coming up on the 14th, which is this Saturday. And Steve Witkoff, this foreign, I guess, diplomat, is supposed to be in Iran to discuss ongoing kind of like basically negotiations around Iran, like powering down, let's say, like its nuclear ambitions or whatever. And this is expected to happen on Sunday. So it does seem that like something, maybe June 14th, June 15th, sometime over the weekend, that we could see potentially Israel striking Iran. Who knows, like maybe it'll happen a day or two later, day or two earlier. But it does look like it's going to happen here in the next few days. And I do think that this kind of, let's say, armchair analysis is probably somewhat accurate, that will probably happen in the coming days. And believe it or not, guys, but there's a little bit of support for this in the charts. As you guys can see here, we're looking actually at the S&P 500. And I guess I'll back up and just explain a little bit. So something like this, like Israel attacking Iran, this is like a macro factor. This is something that's going to affect every single asset, right? Like whether it's stocks or crypto. And what's really interesting is that you can kind of figure out what is moving the market based on how crypto is moving versus how stocks are moving. For example, if crypto is crashing really hard but stocks are doing nothing, then that tells you that it's a crypto specific catalyst. But if both stocks and crypto are going to are crashing, then obviously it's something related to macro. And in this case, if you can see on the charts of something like the S&P 500, if you can see a bearish pattern forming there, then that is kind of like you could say almost like a clearer picture of what could be happening on the macro front and what could affect crypto. And this is part of the reason, as a fun fact, guys, that I'm not too big of a fan of things like RSI, because if you look at RSI on crypto, it'll show that it's like overbought or oversold. But if you look at RSI, for example, on major stock indices, it'll say, well, there's still room to run, or like either still room to fall or still room to rally. So when it comes to like oversold, overbought conditions, I like to look more at like these bigger indices because, of course, crypto kind of lies at the end of the risk spectrum, so to speak. So if these indices still look like they're going to keep grinding up, then crypto is probably going to keep doing the same regardless of what these momentum indicators are saying, if that makes any sense. At least that's my personal analysis. Anyways, what we're looking at here on the S&P, we're on the daily, we're looking at a kind of a ascending wedge, rising wedge. And what's really interesting, of course, is that this is a bearish pattern, and we could potentially see the S&P 500 falling out of this rising wedge. And of course, as some of you might know, that basically most of this rally has been driven by retail, and it looks like this rally is starting to kind of like run out of steam here. So even just to have a technical rollover, like just irrespective of what's happening with Israel, Iran, to have some kind of technical rollover here in the next couple of days does not seem to be out of the question. But again, like the way that I analyze the market is that I look at the charts and I say, okay, what does this pattern look like, and what is the catalyst that could basically trigger it to basically play out? And in this case, obviously, it's Israel attacking Iran, and potentially Iran attacking Israel back. And again, this would all happen potentially in the next few days. So let's say sometime early next week, maybe the markets would open and they would just completely completely puke lower and like fall all the way back down here to, let's say, to around 5,500. And that would be a drop of around 10%. And this is where things get interesting, that typically when you see, for example, the S&P 500, when it drops by 10%, usually Bitcoin will drop by roughly double that amount. So we can zoom in here, guys, to the Bitcoin chart. I do have the Bollinger Bands enabled here because 93K is a level that a lot of kind of technical analysts have been watching. From a purely technical perspective, Bitcoin should be at least retesting this 94, 93K level, not just because of the CME gap or whatever, but also because from a purely technical perspective, when you get a breakout, it's normal for prices to come and retest that breakout level before moving higher. So, we could see at least, let's say, a drop to 93K if there is like this bearish kind of black swan thing that causes the markets to fall. And of course, that would translate to a crash here of around 15% for Bitcoin from its current price. But what I think is possible is that if the kind of like the escalation is bad enough, and if we really get, I don't know, like let's say, for example, there's like some military parade here on Saturday, and maybe, there's some Iranian activity there, like some kind of a terror attack. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's just pure speculation here. But if we were to see something like that, some kind of like significant escalation, then don't be surprised if Bitcoin falls below that level and even falls somewhere below 90K here, kind of respecting this this trend line that it's been kind of been painting since late last year, that it could fall all the way down to around 88K. And of course, that would be a drop of almost 20%, which is a little bit, I would say, more consistent with this potential drop here out of this ascending wedge for the S&P 500 on the daily. And of course, so what would that mean for altcoins? It would be pretty nasty. Of course, altcoins would see a drop of at least 20%, maybe 30%. I suspect that it would fall back down to this long-term support line that others, of course, which is a total crypto market cap of all altcoins outside of the top 10. As you can see, it's basically been chopping in a range for the last basically 2 years. And whenever we're at the bottom of the range, people say it's over, it's over, it's over. Whenever we're close to the top of the range, people say, oh my God, we're so back, we're going to the moon. So of course, if we were to see a drop back down to this long-term support line, or even maybe slightly below the way that we saw back here, kind of like a scam wick, like something like this, then I'm sure there'd be a lot of people saying it's over, it's over, it's over. Bull market is over for sure. Everyone who was bullish was wrong. I knew it all along. All those bears on X were right all along. But what I think is very likely to happen is that if there is again like this kind of like a black swan event that causes this like capitulation, which by the way would be driven mostly by liquidations. Everyone would be watching like 93K, thinking, oh, it's definitely going to go to 93K. But liquidations could take Bitcoin a little bit lower, like another 5% lower down to 88K, and then people would be panicking, thinking like, what? And even here, like even on others, maybe it's supposed to fall, let's say, down to around 210 or 220, but maybe it'll fall down like just a temporary wick down to like to 200 or maybe even like 190, right? And people would say, wow, it's over, it's totally over. Like, but again, it's because all that price action is driven by liquidation. People have a lot of short-term thinking in crypto. They would all think it's over, it's over, it's over. And I probably should have moved this tab here a little bit further down. But what I think is going to happen is if, again, like I have to reiterate again, there's no guarantee there's going to be any kind of attack or escalation. For all we know, this could be a very standard pullback, and maybe I'll zoom down here into the daily for Bitcoin. Maybe this pullback is going to be over by Friday, and then we'll be off to the races next week, right? Like if nothing happens, then Bitcoin's probably just going to keep grinding higher, as well as the rest of the crypto market. We're just kind of now contemplating the possibility again of some kind of black swan, and if it happens, how low crypto could go, which was what I said at the beginning of the video. Anyways. What I think would happen in this case is that if there was some kind of black swan that caused the markets to fall, whether it's crypto or stocks, then I do think that the Fed would probably be a little bit more dovish than they otherwise would have been at their meeting next Thursday. And this is, I guess you can call this like a potentially tinfoil hat take. But of course, again, like, Trump has been very hesitant about helping Israel, do anything with Iran. But hypothetically, again, this is just a pure tinfoil hat take, pure speculation. It's possible, that because Trump has been really struggling, to get the Fed to cut rates, and he needs something that will force them to cut rates. And even when the markets were falling, the Fed was not eager to cut rates, because the Fed was basically like, look, like the reason why the markets are falling is because of your tariffs. So, we're not going to cut rates because of something that you can kind of switch on and off, right? It doesn't really count as like some exogenous shock that would justify like some kind of Fed easing, right? But something like this, like Israel attacking Iran and then some escalation in the Middle East, that would, and that causing the markets to crash, that would be something that the Fed would potentially be more accommodative of. And again, this is just a basically tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. You could call it whatever you want. That basically maybe Trump is saying, you know what, Israel, yeah, maybe you can attack Iran a little bit. Maybe we'll help you out a little bit because it'll bring the markets down, and it'll make it that much more likely that the Fed will be dovish at its meeting next week, which is what we need to basically refinance the U.S. government's debt. Call that a cynical take, call that a conspiratorial take. like go nuts in the comments by all means. But again, like it's just really interesting to me because I do think, you always have to think like that the people, I don't want to say like the people in power know what they're doing, but like when it comes to stuff like this, like these conflicts between different countries, we always tend to assume that one side is stupid or the other side is stupid and one side doesn't know what they're doing. When you just assume that everyone knows exactly what they're doing, like Israel is aware that like they could not attack Iran without some kind of U.S. support, and so it's like why are they then attacking, or why are they considering now attacking Iran? Logically, the only reason they would do that is because they've been given some kind of inkling that hey, like we will kind of like potentially support you in this thing. And why would the U.S. do that? Why would the Trump administration do that? Especially because it would potentially make him really unpopular. Maybe it's because it would again like kind of manufacture a little bit of a stock market drawdown that would force the Fed to intervene. And some would argue, and in fact, a lot of people were saying, if you guys remember, when the whole tariff FUD was happening, like everyone was saying, like Trump is purposely crashing the markets to try and get people to buy U.S. bonds. So why is it not possible that the same thing could be happening in this case, right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like I'm not saying that's the reason. I'm just speculating here, just pure speculation. But anyways, just to wrap things up, if there is some kind of black swan, expect Bitcoin to fall potentially by 20%. Altcoins could fall by at least 20%, maybe 30%. And again, do keep in mind that if there is this black swan, there's going to be a lot of liquidations, and that's going to take prices below levels that you would expect, and it's going to cause a lot of panic. And your mission is basically not to panic if that happens. Again, there's no guarantee if that happens. On like a lighter note, it's possible that this correction will be over basically by the next couple of days. Again, this pullback that we've seen here is again because of this kind of concerns around this conflict. Maybe the whole thing's a nothing burger, nothing ever happens. Everyone knows the meme. And basically, in the next couple of days, maybe Bitcoin falls down, I don't know, to like 1.6K, and then it bounces back off. Because again, same like with the weekly, how I was saying that from a technical perspective, it's normal for crypto prices to like retest this breakout level before moving higher. The same is true on shorter term timeframes. We saw Bitcoin break above this Bollinger Band moving average on the daily, and now we're seeing a retest of this level before moving higher. That's just like objectively speaking, that's just as possible. But we do need to keep this kind of catalyst in the back of our minds. And I'm sure that some people in the comments will be saying, and they probably didn't even make it this far if they're saying this, but they're saying, oh, like yesterday you were saying it's so bullish and everything's so bullish. It's like, yeah, but that was before Israel announced that they were going to strike Iran. Okay, sorry, I didn't like predict that. Some things do get past my radar. But in all seriousness, guys, if you did find that information helpful, then do help us out. You might have noticed we're using Binance there to analyze Bitcoin. You can find a 20% trading fee discount and up to $600 of bonuses in the Coin Bureau deals page. Taking advantage of that deal is super simple. Just click that link. It'll take you to a page that looks like this. Email or phone number. It takes 2 minutes to sign up. If you're not able to access Binance for whatever reason, we do have exchanges that are available to US users and also exchanges that are available to users who might also have access, basically issues accessing Binance for whatever reason. And when you sign up for these exchanges, it doesn't cost you a thing. It's completely free. The exchange gets a new user, you get a trading fee discount, and we get a cut of your trading fees. That's how we make our money, plus the Coin Bureau Club and stuff like that. We don't do any shilling here. So if you like what we do and want to support it, then, at least just, take advantage of these deals. Just sign up, look around. It doesn't hurt. Some of these exchanges give you some welcome bonuses and stuff. So, just make an account, see what's on there. Maybe you'll find something that's useful. And again, maybe that'll help us out as well in the process. Anyways, guys, if you did make it this far, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.